Jesus told us that increasing levels of lawlessness and violence would characterize the days shortly before his return. One manifestation of these two things has been governments doing violence to their own laws, creating new levels of lawlessness, not just on the streets, but in the courts. Courts doing violence to the nation's laws makes the guarantee of your civil rights paper thin. On this program, I'll be focusing on the United States, but there are parallels between what's happening here and things happening worldwide. Wherever you are, your rights regarding government are not written in stone. They are written on paper. Communist China's constitution says citizens of the People's Republic of China enjoy freedom of speech, of the press, of assembly, of association, of procession, and of demonstration. Article 36 of their constitution grants their citizens freedom of religion. But in actual practice, it's all a lie. Those words are not worth the paper they are written on. The deeper you dig into China's atrocities, particularly against religious groups, the more horrible their regime turns out to be. We find the same thing in North Korea and other totalitarian regimes. The words are there, but only on paper. That's why choosing and confirming Supreme Court justices in the United States has become a blood sport. It all boils down to this. Do the words of the Constitution, especially the Bill of Rights, have real and dependable meaning or not? Is the Constitution a rock or is it sand? When he was running for president in 2000, Vice President Al Gore said in an interview with Jim Lehrer, "I believe the Constitution is a living and breathing document." He criticized what he called a strict constructionist, narrow-minded literalist reading. And that's the great debate about the Constitution. Should it be interpreted strictly by the meaning of the words as they were originally intended, or should its meanings be malleable according to the moral and political fashions of the moment? The Supreme Court became a juggernaut of political power with the dawn of the era of judicial activism. It reached the apex of that power with Roe versus Wade in 1973. Whatever you think of abortion, you cannot look at the Constitution and say that it includes abortion as a right. It's just not there. Until Roe, each state decided whether or not abortion would be legal in that state. Many had already legalized it by the time of the court's ruling. In order to make that ruling, the court had remade itself into a super legislature, creating laws that cannot be vetoed and that only the Supreme Court itself can overturn. This is not what the framers intended. They intended for Congress to legislate laws, the executive branch or the president to execute those laws, and the courts to interpret laws and judge their constitutionality. If you favor abortion, then this may not seem like a big deal, but let me show you how it is a big deal. If the Supreme Court can add rights that are not in the Constitution, it can take away rights that are in the Constitution. Maybe you're thinking, but they would never do that. The sad truth is they do it with regularity. In Roe, the human fetus lost the right to life. And that wasn't the last time the court took away a right. In fact, it happens a lot. It happened this year. What you're seeing is a mock-up of the Bill of Rights. Now, let's look at the real thing. Notice that it's pretty faded. That shouldn't make a difference, but it seems to symbolize what's happening. This document can guarantee rights only if our nation and its leaders remain committed to the Constitution. How important did the framers see this commitment? The Constitution contains one oath of office, the presidential oath. In that oath, we can hear what a president's job is really all about.
I, Donald John Trump,
Barack Hussein Obama,
George Walker Bush,
William Jefferson Clinton,
George Herbert Walker Bush,
Ronald Reagan,
Jimmy Carter,
Gerald R. Ford,
Richard Milhous Nixon,
Lyndon Baines Johnson,
John Fitzgerald Kennedy,
Dwight D. Eisenhower,
Harry S. Truman,
Franklin Delano Roosevelt, do solemnly swear
that I will
faithfully execute the office
of President of the United States,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve
protect
and defend
the Constitution
of the United States.
so help me God.
so help me God.
So help me God.
So help me God.
The Constitution serves as the bedrock on which our government operates. It must be the bottom line, inviolable, especially to our courts. Bear in mind that even the strictest interpretation of the Constitution allows it to change 27 times. The Constitution has changed. We call those changes amendments. But amendments must be made according to the Constitution's own rules and not the whims of a group of judges. If judges see this foundational document as malleable, changeable, then our First Amendment rights of free speech, freedom of the press, freedom of religion, and freedom to assemble become no more authoritative than the similar promises made in the North Korean Constitution. We say we have a government of law, not of men. But when the courts are capricious in their interpretation of the law, they make themselves the rulers of the people. If we don't hold to the obvious meaning of the law, then the law itself becomes a lie, and lies doom every effort at justice and fairness. Lies are like quicksand, whereas the truth is stable. That's why when we build a large building, we dig deep down to the bedrock. Then we pour tons of concrete that turns into a rock-like substance. On that, we can build. That illustrates the importance of our foundational document, the Constitution. Our Bill of Rights begins with the most important of those rights. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. That serves as a guarantee that you can exercise your religious beliefs without fear of government interference. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Forces of darkness have used COVID-19 to diminish each one of those most precious freedoms. In May, the Supreme Court ruled against a California church when they were fighting onerous restrictions of their ability to exercise a religious faith that includes the doctrine that we are not to forsake the assembling of ourselves together. Justice Kavanaugh wrote the dissent. The state also has substantial room to draw lines, he wrote, especially in an emergency. But as relevant here, the Constitution imposes one key restriction on that line drawing. The state may not discriminate against religion. Justice Kavanaugh was on the right side of this issue, and he made a good point, but he missed the real point. The Constitution doesn't just say government must not discriminate against religion as compared with the way that it treats, for instance, a hot air balloon ride or nail salons. The Constitution puts religion in a different category altogether. It says Congress shall make no law prohibiting the free exercise of religion. It's not a matter of treating it like everything else. It's in a different category from everything else. In an emergency, such as the COVID-19 panic, I understand that the government needs broad power to briefly restrict certain guaranteed freedoms, but in March of 2020, churches were to be closed for 2 weeks as part of a plan to flatten the curve. The curve has long since been flattened, but in many parts of the country, churches are still prohibited from assembling in person. The Bill of Rights begins with the freedom to exercise your faith without government interference. If that no longer carries meaning, then all our rights are subject to the whims of courts. This is not just lawlessness in the streets, it is lawlessness and what should be the very sanctuaries of justice. Thankfully, government's powers are limited. As individuals, we have something better on which to build. Jesus said, "Whoever hears these sayings of mine," and that's his word, "and does them, I will liken him to a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain descended, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, and it did not fall, for it was founded on the rock. But everyone who hears these sayings of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain descended, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, and it fell. And great was its fall." Ultimately, your freedom and security are in God and his word. Thank you for watching. Look for the next program in mid-October. To be alerted when a new program comes out, follow Prophecy News Update on Facebook or subscribe to our YouTube channel. God willing, I'll see you soon.